The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Yeah, we definitely have a few questions. Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, August 9th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome to the Russ Belville Show. I am Radical Russ Belville. I'm glad that you are here joining us for the next 2 hours of news and conversation and entertainment by, for, and about the cannabis community. You can always find us at ncr420.com, and make sure to tell your friends you can punch that in on your smartphone as well. I saw some chat going back and forth earlier today, and one of our chatters, our Big Daddy Fink, let somebody know that, yes, you don't have to have a special app or anything. Just get on your phone's browser and go to ncr420.com, and you can follow our shows all day, all night, all week long. I even have a little adapter, plugs it into my car radio. I can listen to it as I'm driving down the street. Works really good. Hey, let's get everybody introduced here in the studio. We have got sitting in on the engineer chair. We've got Wiz Kaliko joining us. Hi, Kaliko. How are you?
Aloha. I'm doing quite well. I got this nice frosty little Blue City Diesel nug in my hand, so life's all right.
The Blue City Diesel's awfully popular up here, isn't it?
It is awfully popular. It's keeping me quite irie as well.
Now, you have some Olympic news for us before we get into the main news today?
Yeah, well, obviously the women's wrestling was today, so the girl, Allie Bernard, who took the place of our girl Stephanie Lee, lost pretty unceremoniously today in a 3-1 match against her opponent, so that was quite sad to watch.
And we'll never know, how much farther USA wrestling could have gone in that weight class because our best wrestler wasn't there. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the show. When I get into the Radical Rant, I'm going to give you a look at the use of drugs in the Olympics and some pretty shocking stories that are going on there. Also joining us from our virtual studio in Astoria, Oregon is our news director, Carrie Gallagher. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Russ Belville. How are you?
I'm fine, Carrie Gallagher. Nice to talk to you. We are going to get to the real headlines in cannabis news here. Carrie brings us the news right after the first break. What's in the headlines today?
Well, I kind of laugh because a lot of these medical marijuana programs that we report on, we have big changes that come along, and New Jersey's got another little progress. It's moved so slow that every little piece of progress we get to report is news. So we're going to talk about the New Jersey medical marijuana program today. I've also got some foreign news for you. I told you about that ban that they were trying to do in the Netherlands. Yeah. Well, part of that ban went through on May, and we're going to have NPR did a fascinating story on a look at that 2 months later. And also we've got some Roger Christie news updates from you coming out of Hawaii. So pretty full Cannabis Chronicles today.
All right, we'll get right to that. And then after the news, we take a break at 20 after every day for our daily Toker Tunes. And today is Groovin' Thursday. Big Daddy Fink has taken a break from the funky roller rink to stop in and give us a song. The name of the song is $$$$. So make of that what you will. And it's by a band called Yo Mama's Big Fat Booty Band. So this should definitely be extra loaded with the funk. And speaking of the funk, you can get the funk, the whole funk, and nothing but the funk tonight on Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink, 8 o'clock Pacific time every Thursday here at National Cannabis Radio. And then our guest today at 5:30, we're going to be speaking with Jody James. She's the executive director of the Florida Cannabis Action Network, telling us their plans plans on legalizing marijuana in Florida. Stay tuned. It's the Russ Belville Show. We got all that and more coming up, plus your calls in hour 2. We'll be right back.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
Pulled up today in the van, and I walked out of the building, walked through the big building over, and I walked outside, and I'm walking over by the lake, and I just see everybody casually smoking weed like it's all right. Like it's supposed to be like that.
Because it is all right.
Like you ain't got to worry about no police coming and asking you what you smoking or what are you doing here, or let me see your driver's license. See, that's how they do it in Amsterdam. Everybody just out there chilling. Ain't nobody stressing. You go buy your weed at the shop, you go kick it, smoke your weed, walk the street, do whatever you want to, and you don't even...
Marijuana's not going to re-legalize itself. You've got to do your part. Join the National Cannabis Coalition today at nationalcannabiscoalition.com. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis. The topic of marijuana is heating up the news, and the Russ Belville Show catches you up with today's latest headlines. Now, here's our senior news editor, Cannabis Carey, with the Daily Cannabis Chronicle.
Now, mostly because it has moved so slowly, but every step of progress we have been monitoring in New Jersey, where it has been now more than 2 years ago that they passed medical marijuana legislation. But starting today, medical patients in New Jersey may begin to register for their medical marijuana registration cards. We told you a few weeks back that New Jersey had finally decided to approve 6 nonprofit medical marijuana dispensaries, one of which has been cultivating their low THC strain marijuana and should have product on their shelves in about a month, available to registered patients. The owner of that medical marijuana dispensary, Greenland Compassion Center, Julio Valentin, said that he had been reluctant to begin growing given the uncertainty about when patients would actually be registered. He said that with the patient registry finally opened, he is very happy to begin to serve the people of New Jersey. Now, patients that have one of the qualifying medical conditions, those with things like terminal cancer, MS, or Crohn's disease, could have their condition evaluated by a doctor who is registered with the medical marijuana program. If the doctor feels the patient meets all those qualifications and has tried other therapies without success, they can give a recommendation to that patient. Then the registered physician would submit the patient's name to the MMP registry. Now, once your physician has submitted your name, the patient can then register with the New Jersey Medical Marijuana Program, and those steps can be completed electronically and online. The Public Health Service of New Jersey's Department of Health will be administering the registry. After paying your doctor for all those services, then a registration card costs $200, but it's valid for 2 years. Now, there is a low-income provision in the program If a patient is already on another assistance program like Medicaid, then they will only have to pay $20 for that 2-year registration. Now, there are currently about 150 doctors who have registered to be part of the program. Now, once the paperwork is completed, the state will have 5 days to mail out the patient's card, and then they can use that to obtain marijuana at a legal dispensary in New Jersey.
Yeah, only one small correction on the story. Not all of New Jersey's medical marijuana patients are able to apply for cards because some of them are dead. This bill was passed back in 2010. This law was passed back in 2010, and specifically written in the law what was the codicil that made it possible for people that were suffering terminal illnesses with less than 12 months to live would be able to qualify for medical marijuana. Well, those 12 months have passed and another 12 months have passed, and we're halfway through a third 12 months that have passed while the government of New Jersey, mostly because of the intransigence of its governor, Chris Christie, refuses to let this move forward as fast as it could have. They could have had this thing up and running in months and been helping out patients for, a year and a half now. But they've dragged their feet because, once again, we have to make sure that nobody who's healthy might be smoking a joint. We have to make sure that nothing we do to help the cancer patients and the AIDS patients in any way helps the healthy people who just like to get high and eat Nutter Butters. This is the tragedy that always occurs with medical marijuana. The time they have to waste to craft something that's acceptable enough for the voters, that's going to make it past law enforcement opposition, that's going to not be vulnerable to cries of what about the children and what about the stone drivers. By the time they work all that stuff out, people are suffering and dying. It's as simple as that. And, it's not like I'm going to stand in the way of progress or wish that we hadn't passed medical marijuana in New Jersey and we're not helping at least the few people that we are helping. But I will never forget that this never will go far enough until marijuana is legalized for the healthiest person to use. There's always going to be someone who falls through the cracks, always going to be someone who doesn't quite qualify, or maybe just people that don't feel like they have to get permission from a doctor and from a government to be able to treat themselves with the plants that come out of the freaking ground. And in New Jersey, it's even worse, and it's not just a registry of the patients we're talking about. We're talking about the government having to give explicit permission to doctors to be able to recommend a medicine that's been around for 5,000 years. They already have all the permissions they need from the state and federal governments to recommend OxyContin, to recommend all sorts of drugs that are far more harmful than cannabis could ever be. But if they want to be recommending medical marijuana to people in New Jersey, they have to join a special registry themselves. How much sillier could this get? How much more tragic could this get for the people who are in the other 33 states that don't have medical marijuana as they watch these other states creep slowly toward more and more freedom? Let's push this forward. Let's get this happening faster to help the people that can really use this medicine. And the best way we can do that is by legalizing marijuana in 1, 2, or 3 states this November.
National Public Radio ran a story today about the European city of Maastricht, a border town in the Netherlands, once popular with tourists looking to enjoy a traditional Netherlands coffee shop, the kind that sells cannabis along with a cup of coffee. The Netherlands conservative government hatched a plan last year to rid the country of what they call drug tourists, the foreigners who come into Amsterdam and the Netherlands specifically to enjoy quasi-legal cannabis in a retail setting. Maastricht is also known as the city where the Euro Treaty was signed, washing in a new era in Europe of freedom and travel and commerce to Europeans. Some Netherlands cities have formed activist groups, and city leaders who welcome tourist dollars have been trying to get the new rules dismissed. But Maastricht's mayor, Onno Hoes, doesn't like that his city has become synonymous with cannabis. He said that foreigners who come to buy marijuana regularly violated traffic laws, littered, and didn't spend any money anywhere other than the coffee shops. He was pushing for this current bill that makes it illegal to sell any cannabis to a non-Dutch resident. Since the passage of the euro, you do not need a passport to enter the Netherlands from another country, but you do need a passport to get into a cannabis coffee shop. Since the law went into effect in May, Stephen Korsten, a coffee shop owner in downtown Maastricht, said that he went from serving 1,500 customers a day to only 30 or 40. He said he is now considering making the business into a traditional coffee shop with pastries just to try to keep his doors open. He reports that in the last 2 months, most of the Maastricht coffee shops have closed, he's one of the last. There are street reports from residents and tourists alike that the illegal market for marijuana is once again thriving. Tourists trying to get into a coffee shop and turned away are easily spotted by a number of street dealers who are happy to take a few euros for their weed. And it just isn't the tourists turning back into the black market. Dutch residents must register at that coffee shop to become a cannabis buying customer. Many Dutch not wanting their names on any list, particularly if the trend in conservative politics continue, have opted to no longer go to the shops and have also went back to buying cannabis from street dealers and friends. Now, Amsterdam is next. The rules about selling cannabis to foreigners is being phased in, and Amsterdam's begins in January.
Yeah, gosh, if only somebody could have predicted this would have happened. Oh, except for all of us in drug policy reform who predicted exactly this is what would happen. That exactly this is what the tourists would do when they get turned away from the coffee shops that they've heard about for decades. They would turn to street dealers. And of course, the Dutch citizens who value their privacy and fear this creeping conservatism don't want to get their name on a list that associates them with cannabis use. It's just so sad, too, because we see the drug warriors, Kevin Sabet, Paul Chabot, Bill Bennett. I've seen them on numerous TV appearances, how they're trumpeting this. Even the Dutch have gone back on their famously liberal policies. They've realized they don't want things to be so bad. When really what's going on here is it's the ascendancy of a conservative government, and it's the complaints of a few people that have got a problem with the border tourism and the influx of customers from Belgium and France and Germany who can't get legal marijuana in their countries. Once again, the problem is not the marijuana. The problem is the prohibition. And unfortunately, the legal Dutch coffee shops and the people of Holland are going to have to learn this, apparently the hard way, through loss of lots of tax revenue and economic benefit from tourism.
Now, we have some news about activist Roger Christie, who is the founder of the famed Hawaiian Cannabis Ministry. Roger Christie was arrested twice back in 2010. Now, the first time was when his ministry in Hilo, Hawaii was raided in March of that year. Christie's church had been the subject of a 2-year probe by federal agents. The agents raided the facility, seized cannabis plants, cannabis packaged for sales, and cash. Federal authorities had conducted wiretaps on the organization, and in one instance, an employee of the church asked a fellow employee on what to do when customers ask what the price for marijuana is. A fellow employee told him just to memorize the prices. Christie was released on bond after that arrest, but the church's activities went on. Christie was arrested the second time on July 8th of 2010, and this time police found more damaging evidence of what they are calling a marijuana distribution ring. That donation list of prices was among the items that the agents found during Christie's July 2010 arrest. He was charged this time with 3 counts of trafficking. Prosecutors in the case asked for him to remain behind bars until his trial, arguing that Christie went right back to illegal activities the first time he was released and would most likely engage in crime while awaiting trial. The judge agreed, ordering him to stay behind bars until his trial, which was set at that time for September of 2010. But through legal team changes, court continuances, and some delays in the case, Christie has still not had his day in court. Roger Christie, who has now been in custody for more than 2 long years, recently had his 6th bail hearing. His lawyers argued that Christie was not a threat to society or a flight risk. They were appealing the previous no bail ruling and were asking if Christie could be released on bond to a halfway house. U.S. District Judge Leslie Kobayashi did not agree and denied Christie's bail for a 6th time. Now, just a reminder, Roger Christie was not arrested for any violent crime. Judge Kobayashi noted that the 3 counts of marijuana trafficking charges carry a 5 to 40-year sentence on each count, and that although Christie had been in custody for more than 2 years, she said that delays in the case were largely based on Christie's actions, not the court's. She said that she didn't think that he would be able to follow the conditions he must abide by if he was released to wait for his trial. Now, his trial is set for January of 2013 right now, and just something that jumped out from this story for me, Russ. The federal prosecution said in court that Roger Christie's major cannabis growing, processing, and distribution ring was so big that his 2010 arrest put a major dent in the Big Island's marijuana trade. Pretty big words.
Well, I'm not sure I believe that. And there's, I have my disagreements with Roger Christie and his THC ministry and their selling of the $250 get out of jail free cards. But put that aside, anyone having to be in jail for 2 years without a trial, at first glance, you'd think this would violate our rights to speedy trial that we have in the U.S. Constitution. But I spoke with a former member of the former head of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, who told me while it's pretty rare for there to be a no bail situation in most cases that don't involve violence, with all of the continuances that have happened and the changes of legal teams, that can make a little bit of difference. Normally in a trial, they have to get you to trial within 6 months of the arrest. They can withhold bail if they think you're a flight risk or a danger to the public, although hard to see how Roger Christie could be a flight risk on an island in the middle of the Pacific and a danger to the public. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If anyone who's ever met Roger Christie can also tell you this, he's one of the most gentle, personable people on the planet. The chance he's ever going to harm anyone is a problem. No, what they've got a problem with Roger Christie is he's advocating for marijuana legalization, and he's successfully doing so, and he's bringing all that medicine to the people in the Big Island there. That's what is really going on. This is holding of a political prisoner, not much unlike the holding of Mark Emery. Well, all right then. Try that again.
It's 420 back in Idaho, where Russ and Carrie were born. So we have to go connect with our roots. You know what I mean? Please support these sponsors who support the Russ Belville Show.
Well, I don't know what's going on there. Usually, Liebermater is pretty antsy to get onto the 20 after break, but yeah, it's Thursday. Who knows? When we come back, we got Big Daddy Fink and some funky music for our Groovin' Thursday with Yo Mama's Big Fat Booty Band. Stick around. It's the Russ Belville Show.
I don't like it personally, but it's time for a conversation about legalizing marijuana. It's a multi-million-dollar industry in Washington state, and we get no benefit. What if we regulate it? Have background checks for retailers, stiff penalties for selling to minors. We could tax it to fund schools and health care, free up police to go after violent crime instead. And we would control the money, not the gangs. Let's talk about a new approach, legalizing and regulating marijuana.
The Russ Belville Show.
I'm not very good at singing songs, but here's a try.
According to lifelong pot smoker and rocket scientist Carl Sagan, making apple pies from scratch is extremely difficult.
If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe.
Radical Russ and the Rolla J Studios crew will be right back after these messages.
A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. Cosmos is full beyond measure.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin' Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, folks, we made it to Groovin' Thursday, and every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Pacific time here on National Cannabis Radio, you get another edition of Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink. Nice little animations and great funk and disco music from the late 70s and early 80s. Every Thursday night, 8 o'clock here, ncr420.com. And remember, you can catch ncr420.com on your smartphone or your tablet. Just go to your browser, type in ncr420.com, and you can listen to the Funky Roller Rink right there on your phone or your tablet. You know, take it anywhere that you got cell phone access. But we're going to turn things over to Big Daddy right now, who's got the introduction here for today's song.
Funky Roller Rink.
I like it like that.
What's happening, Groovy Cats? This is Big Daddy from the Funky Roller Rink. And today I'm whipping out your Groovin' Thursday's Daily Toker Tune, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yo Mama's Big Fat Booty Band. or the Booty Band for short, is deeply rooted in funk and has a sound that is unique, yet has the power and soul to create lasting melodies, seismic rhythms, and they are ready to shake the world one cheek at a time, baby. Your Mama's Big Fat Booty Band is Lee Allen on drums, Mary Francis on keys and vocals, Greg Hallowell on saxophone and flute, Derek Johnson on trombone, Al Ingram on bass and vocals, and J.P. Miller on guitars and vocals. This is a seriously funky cut off the Doing It Hard album called Ass, one of my personal favorites and a fantastic tune to see live. This is a great funky tune with very memorable thumping bass lines and lyrics that you'll be singing in your head for days. So let's get on with this thing, baby. I'm Big Daddy, and this is your Mama's Big Fat Booty Band for your Groovin' Thursday Daily Toka Tune.
I was walking through this badonka orchard the other day. Ooh. And I saw these two donkeys getting in this car, right?
Oh, I know what you mean by donkey.
But it was shoved in one pair of pants.
Oh.
Badonka-donk, 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 yeah, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, shake it, badonka-donk, 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 badonka-donk. I see you walking down the streets, badonka-donk. Hypnotize every eye you see, badonka-donk. I like what your mama gave you. Yes, ma'am, I do. Mm-hmm. Now give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. I like what your mama gave you. Now give it to me. What you here for? You call this a dance floor? It's more like ass soup. Tasty, your cup if it's running over, baby. I like what your mama gave you. Now give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. I like what your mama gave you. Now give it to me. Give it to my mama, gotta give it to my mama, gotta give it to my mama, gotta give it to
my mama. Give it to my mama. Give it to my mama. Gotta give it to my mama. 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 Outlawed in like 48 of the 50 states. So I'm out of here.
Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit danmichaelsaudio.com for more information.
Here are some of the things you may hear on the Libra Lounge. And now the news. Bitches got something to say.
If Obama wants to be Roosevelt, he has to end prohibition.
You heard it here on the Libra Lounge.
To visit here Wednesday nights at 6 Pacific. Or visit thelibralounge.com for archives and links to download current episodes. Be a lounger.
You're waiting. The Libra Lounge.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 32 after the hour, and we are going pretty much to the opposite tip of the United States from where I'm at in Portland, Oregon. We're headed out to Florida, where joining us on the telephone, we've got Jody James, the executive director of the Florida Cannabis Action Network. Hi, Jody.
Hi, Russ. Good to talk to you this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for being on here. You know, we cover Florida quite a bit because I always bring up the statistic that Florida has the most punitive measure for marijuana possession. 20 grams or over is a felony in the state of Florida. So, you know, in a place that's so tough to fight for marijuana rights, how do you get started? How did you get involved in this?
Oh, you know, that's a story we could take up all day on. Basically, I went to a festival in Florida in the 90s, and they had failed to get a permit. The organizers were not given a permit because the government didn't like the content of our speech. And at this event, I was there as a vendor, and I watched police just torture these poor activists. And I kind of felt some communion with them. I understood that this was good medicine, and I understood that it wasn't dangerous. But after I saw that such a blatant violation of the First Amendment, I knew that this was something that I could not walk away from. Not in my America.
So you'd been doing work in other areas of law or something before you'd gotten involved with these cannabis activists?
Not at all. I was just a plain old citizen.
Oh, okay.
I was a vendor. No, I just couldn't imagine that the police would come out in this kind of force and against everyday average citizens to suppress this. And if that's the way the government was going to act, then I knew it was going to take us to stand up for it, kind of balancing the universe. So that's how we started. I mean, it was just kind of not in my America.
Right.
And over the years, I've had the ability to work with some phenomenal activists and really get some great training. Florida is the front line on the war on drugs. One of my board members says, Jody, I want a campaign that says, let's be 49th. Because, of course, right now we're the 50th in terms of regressive policies. But, Florida Can is working to change that. We have a lot of great programs going on. With our medical marijuana program, www.fldecides.org, we managed to collect thousands of signatures on a petition for amnesty for patients. We had the first meeting with a sitting governor's team in over 20 years. We've had some pretty serious drug warriors in our governor's office down here.
Oh, yeah, Florida? Yeah.
Yeah, starting with Jeb Bush. I was telling someone I think we have a really rare opportunity here in Florida. Governor Bush, of course, this would go back to 2000. We had Jeb, the rest of the country had GW, but under Jeb, he triumphed and trumpeted the successes of the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. Charlie Crist came in, he was our next governor, and did basically the same thing. So it's been a real challenge here in Florida, but wherever you have great oppression, you get really, really strong, committed people. And that's what we have in Florida right now, is really strong, committed people. You can't look at what's happening in Florida without pointing to what Robert Platthorn is doing with the Silver Tour. Should Grandma have marijuana medicine? These are incredible things that are happening. Us meeting with the governor's staff to talk about amnesty for patients, 18,000 signatures. We didn't even print everything. 1,500 pages. I figured that was a great photo op. So, yeah, it's really it's good progress. I feel like we've got good progress. But you just keep at it. I'm grateful that you're previewing dynamic people around the country that are trying to do these things, but really it's not necessarily dynamic people, it's everybody, it's simple people taking whatever talent they have and using it for this wonderful plant, and it's the plant that's dynamic. I go out and I represent the plant, and it always makes me look good.
Well, I'd heard some rumblings from activists in the South talking about doing something with the initiative process there in Florida, maybe going for medical marijuana initiative, since you are one of the few southern and eastern states that has an initiative process. Is that something Florida Cannabis Action Network is involved with?
Well, certainly we believe that everyone should have the right to protest and demonstrate and petition. That's our First Amendment right. In Florida, they have set the petition process so high and made it so challenging that it's really not something that Florida Cannabis Action Network gets involved in. You have to run a political action committee. We have a wonderful political action committee run by Kim Russell. She can handle those kind of things. Florida Can puts together all the tools that the public needs to be speaking out on this issue of great importance. We're doing more of the legislative hardball stuff. Certainly the petition process is available to Florida, and if anyone wants to give us several $1 million to tackle that job, I would be happy to consult with them.
I love it. Let's do that.
Yeah,
we're speaking with Jody James.
Fun?
She's the executive director of the Florida Cannabis Action Network. And Jody, if they do want to give you a couple $1 million, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, I'd about give you my private email for that one, but how about you can check out everything we're doing at www.flcan.org. We have a couple different events that are going on and coming up. We're going to be in Gainesville doing a Cannabis Hemp Fest. We're going to be doing a Can Freedom Fest in November here, and then, of course, come the first of the year, we will have made our impact on the legislative body through the elections, right? Because we're all going to get out and vote.
Right.
Our cannabis conscience. We're going to educate our voters, and then come January, we're going to be back in the saddle ready to take on the Florida legislature again as soon as they sit. So, yeah, I feel like everything's coming up roses in Florida, and this is a great time to invest.
Yeah.
We're working hard, and we know what the hard work is going to amount to and where it's going to take us.
Yeah. Now, Jody, trying to work for full legalization is something that takes time and a lot of steps. Do you have any specific goals with the upcoming Florida legislature as far as maybe sentence reductions or any sort of other legislative goals that you might have this year?
Absolutely. Well, we are in the process right now of polling all of the candidates. That's an important step in knowing what exactly your legislatures are going to be willing to take. So we spend a lot of time on public education. We are looking at several people that would be interested in taking the lead on some sort of civil penalty as opposed to a criminal penalty. We've talked to folks who are interested in penalty reductions. We've seen some of that. We've got a great organization here in Florida that's right on crime. And basically, the Florida business community has told lawmakers that they just don't want to pay for nonviolent drug offenders in prison. So, when business says we're not going to pay for your bad habits anymore, lawmakers start to look at some of the things that they can do, and I feel that's probably why we have a seat at the table. I think we have very exciting times here in Florida, and so medical protections, amnesty for patients, because in all of these discussions, if we can't get the patients out of the war on drugs, we haven't done our job. Last year alone in Florida, nearly 39,000 people were arrested for that under 20 gram offense. That's a misdemeanor punishable by up to $1,000 fine and up to a year in jail. So this 39,000 people that I'm referring to, those are just the folks that got taken to the jail and got fingerprinted and spent a night or an afternoon in jail before they bonded out or saw a judge. So think about the 39,000 lives that we can change if we can raise that threshold, if we can, better yet, create a civil penalty for that. And so we know the trend is going your way. We certainly wish Oregon the best of success.
Oh, thank you.
California, Colorado. And I know that part of our success in Florida is due to the fact that our lawmakers are looking at your state and going, well, wait a minute, we need to be on top of doing something about this. I'm very proud of the position Florida has in this movement. Our president, Catherine Jordan, is a survivor of Lou Gehrig's disease, and that's ALS. And
yes.
I feel funny saying survivor, but she was given 3 to 5 years to live. She discovered the neuroprotectant effects of cannabis through an incredible gift of a strain that may no longer exist. And cannabis has kept her alive for nearly 27 years.
Yeah.
What do you call that?
Yeah, well,
Other than a survivor.
We've actually, I've met Kathy on one or two occasions, and we interviewed her on the show, and it can be difficult to understand her, but she came off pretty clearly in the interview we did. And yeah, between her and Professor Stephen Hawking, those are maybe two people that you might be able to name that have lived longer than 3 to 5 years with a diagnosis of ALS, and it's kept her alive for, over 2 decades now. I'm so glad to hear that she's a part of your Cannabis Action Network.
Well, definitely a guiding force and a leading force. And I think it's exciting to her, too, to be able to have help amplifying her voice. It's a very exciting opportunity for us. We know that the federal government's going to be looking at rescheduling cannabis here in October. I'm sure you've talked to your listeners about that. Kathy's a named plaintiff in that lawsuit. So,
good.
All the things are coming together in Florida in case that millionaire's listening.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, with Florida, you also have an interesting situation that, demographically speaking, in that, large elderly population, large Jewish population, and large Hispanic population, particularly Cuban Hispanics. Do you have any targeted outreach efforts to those demographics, and do they differ in any way from what you're doing just generally?
Well, South Florida is where Robert Platthorn is, and he's working the Silver Tour. And I've got to give lots of kudos to Robert and what he's done in South Florida, because with the exception of the Hispanics, which Florida does have an outreach to Hispanics, most of our literature is available in Spanish. We were one of the first drug policy reform organizations in the country to do that.
That's great.
So everything we've done has been in Spanish for over 10 years. That's a portion of our population. But Robert's doing a great job. He's got Irv Rosenfeld. They've been going to synagogues in South Florida talking about senior citizens using cannabis. No one can top that effort.
All right.
So our best is to just watch his successes. We talk to baby boomers. We talk to students. We talk to business professionals. We are working right now with law enforcement to get the kind of support that we need for our legislative work in the fall. And we're always talking to patient advocacy groups because they carry a message that no one else can carry. Veterans is a huge population in Florida.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're talking to everyone who will listen, which is our job as an advocate. We've got a great plan to advocate for. And if anyone ever pretends that this is about anything more than this wonderful plant that can heal our planet, then they're probably deluding themselves just a little bit.
Or addicted to drug war themselves. Jody James, Executive Director of the Florida Cannabis Action Network. Hey, thanks for doing what you're doing. I know Florida's got to be a tough place to break through, and we wish you all the luck in the world. One more time, if people want to help you out, what's the website address?
Let's go to www.flcan.org. Florida Can.
FloridaCan.org. Thanks so much, Jody James, and we'll talk to you again as we get closer to election time.
Look forward to it. Thanks a lot.
All right, when we come back, we got some time for Radical Rant. We're going to take a look at drug use at the Olympics. And the Olympics is fine with it. Be right back.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
The Russ Belville Show. Chat is for friends 18 and older. We expect our chat to be civil, mature, and free from excessive profanity. If you don't like these rules, there are approximately 6 billion other chat rooms with lower standards that you can visit.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant. All right, welcome back, everybody. 46 after the hour, and I wanted to take a look today at drug use in the Olympics. The use of mind-altering agents and how the people at the Olympics, the Olympic committees, the various countries don't seem to have a problem with it. Because right now, somewhere in the Olympic Village, right there in London, somebody is, one of our world's finest athletes is vomiting and blacking out from a recreational drug overdose. This potentially life-threatening situation is not rare. In fact, widespread drug overindulgence is so acceptable that some of the world's largest drug cartels expect to profit greatly from the London Games. The athletes who choose to ingest a recreational drug talk about the intense pressure of training and how the spectacle of the Olympics provides the first real chance to relax and unwind with peers after years of dedication. In one ESPN story, U.S. gold medalist Ryan Lochte talks about leaving the village for a drug-taking experience with London soccer fans. Australian soccer's Alicia Ferguson says that the Olympic organizers encourage recreational drug use by the athletes during the closing ceremonies. And U.S. soccer goalie Hope Solo talks about some athletes who are such, quote, extremists, end quote, that they will take 20 doses in one night. She even admits that she and other members of the U.S. women's soccer team used a recreational drug all night long and appeared on NBC's Today Show the next morning while still under the influence of the drug. Now, why hasn't the media been blasting scandalous headlines about our Olympians poisoning themselves with a deadly recreational drug and the drug cartels whose product kills 2.5 million people annually worldwide? Well, because those drug cartels are official Olympic sponsors and their product is legal. Heineken UK is the official London's Olympic provider and supplier of alcohol. Budweiser is an official sponsor of Team USA. Yet, according to the American College of Sports Medicine, quote, alcohol consumption is high enough for alcohol to have been named the most abused drug in Olympic sports by the U.S. Olympic Committee, end quote. According to the report, quote, alcohol abuse is at least as prevalent in the athletic community as it is in the general population, end quote. And alcohol abuse has negative effects on reaction time, hand-eye coordination, grip strength, jump height, fatigue, aerobic performance, and hydration. And unlike any other drug, alcohol, quote, affects the body's every system, linking it to several pathologies, including liver cirrhosis, ulcers, heart disease, diabetes, myopathy, bone disorders, and mental disorders, end quote. Now, usually, Olympic alcohol use only ends up in embarrassment, like this morning when Belgian cyclist and 20-year-old Gilles Van Hoek was booted from his Olympic team when photos of him clearly overdosed on alcohol became an internet sensation. And other times, Olympic alcohol use leads to antisocial behaviors that affect others. Australian rower Josh Booth was just kicked off the Olympic team and sent home after he vandalized 2 store windows in a fit of anger over his 6th place finish, following an alcohol overdose that actually required hospitalization. Now, when it comes to drugs in the Olympics, one might think of the world's most decorated Olympian. However, long before being known for marijuana, U.S. swimmer Michael Phelps had to deal with charges of driving drunk in Maryland at the age of 19 after the Athens Games. Back in 2009, he was spotted partying in New York and, quote, drinking straight from a bottle of Grey Goose, end quote, and had, quote, ordered 4 bottles of vodka, end quote, according to the New York Daily News. But it's that infamous photo of him smoking cannabis from a Ruhr bong, the kind of bong marijuana aficionati use, that led the United States Olympic Committee to apologize profusely, stating that it was, quote, disappointed in the behavior, end quote, and that Phelps is, quote, a role model responsible for setting a positive example for others, particularly young people, and regrettably, he failed to fulfill those responsibilities, end quote. When it comes to recreational drugs, like the rest of the Olympics, it is only acceptable to promote the sponsor's products. In fact, athletes are subject to a 4-page set of rules regarding social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the like, that primarily forbids advertising for non-Olympic sponsors and the use of Olympic trademarks. These rules do not forbid the promotion of drug overdose, as evidenced by Tour de France winner and British cycling gold medalist Bradley Wiggins. He's got a post on Twitter with a photo entitled, "Getting Wasted at St. Paul's." And in another tweet, he explains how he is, quote, blind drunk at the minute and overwhelmed with all the messages, end quote. Now, the Olympic organizations can administer their own controls over social media when postings might reflect badly on the team. For example, Australian swimmers Nick Darcy and Kenrick Monk got themselves in trouble with Australian officials when they posted some pictures of themselves holding automatic pistols and pump-action shotguns at a legal U.S. gun store. Officials called the social media postings, quote, foolish and clearly inappropriate, end quote, and banned them from using Twitter and Facebook. So, did the British Olympic Association admonish Wiggins for any foolish and clearly inappropriate social media use in his promotion of a drug overdose? No. In fact, they praised him. The British Olympic Association chairman Colin Moynihan said, quote, he is absolutely thoroughly entitled to have a fantastic party and celebrate. Nobody deserves it more, end quote. And the frustrating part is this promotion of alcohol, a drug so clearly dangerous to athletes and society, while banning the safest recreational drug possible, cannabis. The World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA, W-A-D-A, maintains a list of prohibited substances for athletes. Making that list depends on meeting 2 of the 3 following criteria. 1, it has the potential to enhance or enhances sport performance. 2, it represents an actual or potential health risk to the athlete. 3, it violates the spirit of sport. Well, alcohol certainly matches number 2. It's definitely a health risk to the athletes. As for number 1, a performance enhancer, the American College of Sports Medicine says, quote, low amounts of alcohol between 0.02 and 0.05 can result in decreased hand tremors, improved balance and throwing accuracy, and a clearer release in archery, end quote. but only archery, karate, and motorsports ban alcohol use in competition. In fact, you can legally compete drunk in every other sport, as Russian high jump gold medalist Ivan Yukov did back in 2008. And as for number 3, violating the spirit of sport, well, if the spirit of sport is to celebrate the fittest and finest in human achievement, how does promoting the abuse of one of the most harmful drugs to humans not violate that spirit? In its anti-doping code, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency notes that cannabinoids are a banned substance in all forms, whether it's an illegal joint of homegrown or a legal Marinol pill. Quote, USADA strongly advises athletes not to use cannabinoids at any time, end quote, they explain, on the same sheet that counsels athletes that they can get a therapeutic use exemption for the medical use of stimulants and narcotics. Now, such an exemption might be beneficial if the athletes are in those 17 states that recognize the medical use of marijuana, but one must question if alcohol use is accepted and encouraged, why should cannabis use be banned for anything but moral reasons? Nobody claims that marijuana use enhances sport performance, unless it's the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and it certainly provides far less health risks to the athlete than alcohol. And as for this nebulous spirit of sport rule, what deflates the spirit of sport more than knowing that the best natural competitors aren't competing? USA Wrestling failed to even advance beyond the first round in women's 72 kilogram wrestling when USA's Ali Bernard lost today 3-1 to Sweden's Jenny Fransson, and the match really wasn't even that close. Would the woman who dominated her in the USA trial, Stephanie Lee, have advanced against Jenny Fransson? Well, we'll never know, because Stephanie Lee was suspended for a positive test for cannabinoids, or more specifically, cannabinoid metabolites. And in judo, the men's 73 kilogram judoka Nick DiPapolo had his 7th place finish vacated when he tested positive for cannabis metabolites. Does the athlete who's now the 7th place finisher and his country feel any more proud? And how different would Olympic history be if the proof of Michael Phelps' cannabis use was metabolites on an Olympics anti-doping test and not a photo in a British tabloid? The time has long since come for us to put this hypocrisy and double standard behind us. No one is saying that the U.S. Olympic Committees or the World Anti-Doping Agency needs to be recognizing and promoting the use of cannabis, but we are saying it should be treated like alcohol. Alcohol is not listed in the anti-doping codes in performance or out of performance, except for motorsports, karate, and archery, where it's shown to be either a harm to the athlete or an enhancement to the sport. Cannabis is not harming the athletes, it's not enhancing the sports, and it does not violate the spirit of sport. If we can accept that our athletes are drinking on the field at the closing ceremonies, being encouraged to sneak out between breaks and bring more alcohol in, if we can accept that the Olympic Village is a sex-fueled orgy that is just awash in alcohol use, even by young athletes who are below the drinking age in the United States or some of the European countries' drinking ages, if we can accept that athletes are showing up on our morning news shows blitzed drunk from the night before, having gotten no sleep, and we can accept that as not only not being a bad message for the children, but being acceptable, being something that young people can look forward to, that athletes deserve to let off some steam, that they've built up a long training regimen where they have to live like monks for months and years at a time and put in hours a day training. And the general feeling amongst all these Olympic organizations is that that's normal and natural and they should be able to celebrate and relax. All we are saying is let our athletes toke. If they are allowed to get intoxicated, to blow off some steam, let's give them a choice that is much better for them and much better for the people around them than allowing them to get blitzed on alcohol, commit vandalism in London, make an embarrassment of themselves to their Belgian teammates, and so forth. This has got to change, and the more these athletes get popped for their marijuana use, the more it's going to change. This time it was judo and wrestling and competitors that no one had ever heard of. When it's a Usain Bolt or a Michael Phelps, both men fastest in the water and on land, who have admitted to their use of marijuana, when one of them gets taken down for a pot test, maybe we'll see something change. Because you know, folks, it's really all about the money. When it comes down to some athlete who could cost somebody a lot of money, we'll see some change. All right, thanks for joining us. Stick around for Hour 2. Toker Talk Radio will continue the topics and take your calls at 971-533-7111. Check us out at ncr420.com. My blog's at radicalruss.com. For Wiz Khalico and Cannabis Carry, I am Radical Russ, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.